Hello, my beautiful people. I'm Elizabeth Molina, and I am your beauty guru. In this podcast, I will share with you all you need to know about beauty from the inside out. You will gain access to the latest beauty trends from head to toe, mind and soul. You will hear from experts themselves, the trendy influencers, celebrities, athletes, and of course, myself on all things beauty. This is definitely the place to be biohacking, beauty hacking, life hacking into the why for your beauty routine. Are you ready for your glow obsession? Today's guest is none other than Hala Taha. She is the host of Young and Profiting podcast, frequently ranked as #1 educational podcast across all apps. Hala is also the CEO of Yap Media, a full-service social media and podcast marketing agency for top podcasters, celebrities, and CEOs, projected to generate over $1 million in revenue in its first year. She is well known for her engagement, following, and influence on LinkedIn. She's also known for so many other things that we're gonna get into in this episode. You're gonna hear things from her that you haven't heard before. She is going to sing. She has an amazing, beautiful voice. She has a story, and it is an impactful one. It is the story of resiliency. It is the story of if you set your mind to something and you work hard enough, you will get there. Hala takes us through her journey, and I'm so excited for you guys to listen to a never before heard all of the different adversities that she has gone through and how she's doing it today. So I'm so excited for you guys to meet her. Welcome, Hala.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. I'm so happy to have you here. This is going to be such a great episode. I cannot wait. I'm just going to dive right in because there's so much content. The more I hear you, the more I learn about you. I'm just like, wait, what? When did this happen? Like, how old are you again? So I want people to know about you and to just hear your amazing voice and power, and like pun intended, you guys will stay tuned for that. So Hala, let's get to it. How did you begin in the industry? You are a powerhouse to be reckoned with. You have your hands in everything. I don't think you have enough toes and fingers to put in all the jars that you're in. And tell us a little bit about your backstory. Like, let's make it like maybe like not that long. Tell us about all your journey through radio, through your corporate. Like, tell us about that before we dive in.
Yeah, of course. I'll give you the really quick version. So I started my career at Hot 97. It's one of the biggest radio stations in New York, in America, for hip hop and R&B. And so I got this internship my junior year of college. I was in the corporate side, the production side. I was doing really well. So then they recruited me to be Angie Martinez's assistant in the studio area. So this was like a really coveted role. It was super demanding. And so what happened is I ended up dropping out of college to take it full time and to really take my chances and try to see if I could grow a career in radio. And so I was Angie Martinez's gopher, basically, where I would do all her research. I would answer calls. I would babysit her kids. I would go get clothes for her. I would, go driving around with her to events, and was basically her apprentice for 3 years. And it was totally for free. I never got paid a dime from Hot 97 or from Angie Martinez. So I dropped out of school, like I said. And that was very difficult because I came from a family of doctors. So my dad was a doctor. All my siblings were in med school or, just graduated. I'm the youngest. I'm the baby of the family. And here I was working for free, dropped out of college, working at a radio station when everybody else was in med school. So I was actually looked at as like the failure of the family, which is really funny now. And, but I was working really hard. They just didn't understand what I was doing. So then a paying role opened up at Hot 97, and it was to be Angie Martinez's producer. And for a while, I was doing that job. And every morning I was already doing that job from before. The reason why she had fired her producer is that he was really underperforming. And I was already doing that job for many, many months. And they decided to, instead of hire me, I wasn't even getting paid minimum wage, but literally at the station every day had a key card as if I was an employee. P.S. like highly legal, right? They instead of giving me a job, they decided to promote somebody who was in the video department who had no production experience, no producer experience whatsoever. And so I was pretty upset. I was a young girl. I was like 20 at the time or 21. And I'd send a text to DJ Drewski, who is now very popular on Hot 97 all the time and still has his show. And I said, he was the one who got the producer role. And I said, I don't feel good today. I don't want to come into the station. If you want to be the producer, learn it on your own. And He showed that text to Angie. Angie got upset, fired me, and essentially tried to blackball me from the industry and told all the DJs they couldn't talk to me anymore, didn't even let me say goodbye. I didn't get to pack up my stuff. I just was never allowed to go there again, never allowed to talk to anyone again. And it was really traumatic experience for me looking back. And really impacted the future of my life very dramatically, because had that never happened, I may have been on Hot 97 as an on-air personality right now. And that was literally my trajectory. That's anybody who works for free at the station, it's for that reason. They're basically saying work for free because we're going to make you a star, and that's what I was working for free for. So anyway, I didn't let that hold me back. I think they fired me on a Thursday, and by Sunday, I had built like a website called the Sorority of Hip Hop StrawberryBlunt.com. And I decided I was going to recruit girls and create this network, this female network, and we were going to empower each other and support each other, because I felt like as a woman, I wasn't getting the right exposure and opportunities in the hip hop industry. And so I was going to recruit other girls. So we had girls from Def Jam, VH1, iHeartRadio, all these different girls joined us. We started the Sorority of Hip Hop. And at the height of it, we were 50 girls strong. We were hosting the hottest parties and concerts in New York. The same DJs who wouldn't pay me minimum wage, I started hosting parties with them. If you go look on my Facebook and Instagram, you'll see flyers with me on with DJ Camilo and Funkmaster Flex and all these huge DJs that I used to host parties for. And we used to host concerts and had radio shows. So it was great. And at the height of that, MTV scouted us for a reality TV show, and they filmed us all summer. We got a studio on Broadway. It was finally going to be a way for me to like really monetize this endeavor. Like, we were a big name in the tri-state, but we weren't really making that much money just from events. 50 girls, that money spreads, quickly can spread thin across so many girls. I was the president, so I would get paid the most, but still, MTV filmed us all summer and then pulled the plug. So last minute, they decided they're not going to air the show. And then again, it was one of those moments where what do I do now? My life was kind of crumbling. And then a piece of the story that I usually never tell, but I am going to tell it because it's relevant. This is the first time I'm ever telling this. Is after MTV didn't pick our show, I shut down the blog site. But I also, at the same time, it was around 2014, and there was lots of war going on in Gaza, Palestine. Same thing, that's what's happening right now. And I shut down my website, and I just became like an advocate for Palestine, and I raised over $300,000 for Palestine, and I had all these fundraising events, and that's all I concentrated on for a long time. Yeah, but it was funny because I shut down my website, and I basically exited from the entertainment industry, and talking about Palestine and like being like political like that was like the nail in my coffin. So like nobody fucked with me anymore. A lot of the people who supported me stopped supporting me. I lost a lot of friends. No, like a lot of people like just didn't mess with me anymore because I started promoting Palestine. So essentially, I exited the entertainment industry, and I thought I would never get back on a mic again. So I was like, I'm just going to I want to be better. I want a more meaningful life. What I was doing before was all fake. It was so not sexual, but like we used to host parties because we were pretty girls. And like, I just wanted to stay away from that. I was like, it's time for me to grow up. There's people dying in the world. I want to fix that. I want to be a good person, and I want to work on myself, because I felt like I had 50 girls under me, all kind of banking on my success for themselves to be successful. It was like I had to do like 90% of the work for all these other girls to get all this success. And I was like, I just want to do it on my own. So I went and got my MBA. I basically forced myself into the NJIT graduate program because I did not have I had a 2.3 undergrad GPA, so I didn't deserve to get into graduate school, but they let me in, and then I got a 4.0. I graduated number one in my class, and then got a job at Hewlett Packard, started Young and Profiting, which is now a number one education podcast, and worked at Disney for a little while, and then launched Yap Media. So that is my story in a nutshell. You can dig into any part that you want.
Oh my God. I love that I was like, please do it quick because you have so many lives that you lived and you were like, bam, 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 here you go. What do you want?
It wasn't that quick. I was like, oh shoot, I'm kind of going too long in certain parts. But.
No, it was really good because it was definitely quick. There's so much there to be said there. So I kind of want to, like, you said a lot there, and I want to unpack that a little bit. And I want to go back to what I keep on hearing is your resiliency. Like, you are that chart that you see of like the heartbeat that goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And so I want to take it way back when you were little.
Okay.
Because It seems like you've been dealing with rejection, people telling you no, people shutting the door in your face after you put in the work. It's not like you're lazy, right? Because there are some people who are like, I just want to show up and be pretty. I'm going to show up and be a voice. And you have a beautiful voice. And we were talking about that before. I wanted you to tell us a little bit more about your middle school, high school, because I feel like there's a story there that relates to what we're going to get into, which is what fuels you, because there's a fueling you that's a really massive, like there's this fire in Hala. You guys have to watch her, and she's always on. And so like we need to know the secret to that fuel. But where did little Hala become so like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to make it no matter what?
Yeah, so like as a kid, I was always like really, really outgoing. So like you said, I was a great singer. And so I'd always like at family parties, like be the one singing and like wanting to be the star of the show. I was the baby. I was cute. So like I got a lot of attention when I was growing up. And in middle school, I was like decently popular. I had a lot of friends. I'm a Palestinian American family. My parents are really open. Like a lot of our family friends were Christian and Jewish. And we were just like a normal family. And I would like say that like people treated us like we were Italian before 9/11, right? So it's like we were ethnic, but we weren't like weird or we weren't bad. You know what I mean? And like my dad was a doctor, and so like, you know, my friends would sleep over, and it wasn't like we were just a normal family. And I mean to say this because after 9/11, all of that changed. And so I used to be into soccer. I used to be like in the plays and like always get like either the co-lead or the lead in the plays and like solos and all this kind of stuff. The 9/11 happened, and I felt like I never got any opportunities for a long time. Like, so like end of middle school, all of high school, just no opportunities. Like I had the best voice in school. I would say the one saving grace that I had an amazing chorus teacher, and he still always gave me a solo in the concert. So if I didn't have that, I'd probably have like no confidence. But I knew that I had the best voice in school, but they would never put me at the lead in the plays. I wasn't even allowed to be in the talent show. Can you believe that? Having the best voice in school and they're telling you you're not allowed to be, like, you're not good enough to be in the talent show. Racist. Yeah. I lived in a really white town, and I was like one of the only brown people. And before 9/11, it was definitely better in terms of like how the community treated me and my other cousins who lived down the street. But then after that, after 9/11, it was like I just felt like I got zero opportunities. I tried out for the volleyball team. No. I tried out for the cheerleading team. No. I tried out for the play. No. I tried to be on student council. No. I tried to be in the talent show. No. Like literally, no. It wasn't normal, you know? And before 9/11, I would get a lot more opportunities. And I literally think that there's been so many opportunities that I haven't gotten because of literally my name. And like, that sucks. You know, even job applications, I think that I've been rejected because people are like, Hala, Taha, that sounds really weird. She probably doesn't even know how to speak English. Like, and it's quite the opposite. I'm like the most American person ever, right? But like, it's tough, you know, and I really hope that that changes. But the big moral of the story here is that by the time I got to college, I was so used to rejection that I was like unstoppable. And when I went to college, I went to NJIT. It was like nerd central, right? So many like just engineers, kind of geeks. So I got to school and I was like the hottest girl in school. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's like I got on the cheerleading team. I got in the play. I was like in my sorority and just rocked it. And it was like a really big confidence boost because I went from like having all these friends and stuff in middle school and then in high school just kind of being normal and not really getting too many opportunities to in college like really just soaring and sticking out as a sore thumb. And then I got that internship at Hot 97. And then I started just hanging out with celebrities and dating Chris Brown, for example, like just, you know, had like a really cool life as a 19-year-old. And then the rest is history.
Wait, did you date him before Rihanna or after Rihanna?
Right after Rihanna, and everybody was giving me shit.
I was going to ask you, like, how was that? Because I think that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, he was nice. I mean, it was like I was his girlfriend from it wasn't anything serious. It wasn't like we were like very, very serious, but he used to take me out to dinner and I had to sign a waiver before the first date that we ever had. His like driver, Chris gets out of the car and his driver hands me like a waiver that basically says like, I can't tell anyone that we're on this date.
Oh my gosh.
And here I am saying it because it's like nothing happened. So.
Oh, that is a good story, Hala. Like really good story. Did you get any dance moves from Chris? Did you?
No, but he used to sing constantly. He would just be like walking around singing the whole time. He was really an artist at heart.
Did you ever sing with him? Like
Yeah, I used to. So at the time, I was a singer, and so we would like be in the car listening to my music, and he used to give me feedback on my music. And if I really wanted to have been a singer, I had the connections back in the. I could have really pushed for it, but it wasn't. I really wasn't like you see how passionate I am with podcasting. If I had been, I wanted to be a singer, but I'm not like the best dancer in the world, and I knew that like you really have to be both if you really, really want to succeed. And I have a great voice, but I'm not like Christina Aguilera. So it's like I either need to be like the best singer in the world or I need to be really good at singing, really good at dancing. And I knew I wasn't that, so I pivoted to radio.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to ask you, Hala, like, do you mind giving us a little sample of your music? Because I want to hear you sing. Like, I never heard you sing on a podcast
I've
ever.
never sang, not even on my own podcast,
Oh
Elizabeth. So
my
this is a
God.
big ask. So I'm
Okay.
going to sing a song. I tried out for American Idol. I didn't make it, obviously.
Was it the
But I tried
dancing?
out for American Idol and I did the Keisha Cole love song. What'd you say?
Was it the dancing, or was it just because like they didn't
No, I
like the
was
song?
just, I got to the second round. Like I got through the first round. Then the second time, I literally like went up, started singing for 2 seconds, and they were like, next. And I was like, okay. Like they just
Wow.
didn't like how I looked, pretty much. Now I'm young and profiting. You know what? Everything
Yeah.
happens for a reason. Okay, I will sing. And by
Let's
the
go.
way, I have not warmed up. This is totally just on
I
the
love
fly,
it.
but
Yes.
let's do it. Okay. I used to think that I wasn't fine enough. And I used to think that I wasn't wild enough. But I won't waste my time trying to figure out why you playing games. What's this all about? And I can't believe you're hurting me. I met your girl, what a difference. What you see in her, you ain't seen in me. But I guess it was all just make believe. Oh, love.
That was so good. And
No,
she didn't
that
warm
was
up.
so bad.
Stop.
But
That was so
anyway,
good.
that was me. Honestly, guys, not
I
warmed
got a
up.
little,
Haven't
I
sang
got
in
some
probably
chills.
like a year and a half. So
Oh my gosh.
sorry if I hurt your ears.
No, you didn't. That was so good, Hala. So wait, what made you change? What was like your turning point where you're like, I'm not going to be a singer anymore because you have a great voice and you've always had a great voice since you were young and you still do, which is I think part of the magic in terms of like you have the beauty, you have the brains and you have the voice.
Yeah. I think really the pivotal point was being in Hot 97 and seeing the music industry and kind of being abused by the industry. I mean, I had a lot of people paying attention to me. I was the only girl in the studio area at Hot 97. So I met people like Kanye West, Jay-Z, Drake, you name it, Trey Songz, all the big people of that time. And a lot of these producers and their managers would approach me, and I was really young, and they would try to sleep with me, and they would try to entice me to do things. I had Mac Main telling me if I was his girlfriend, he would make me the next Nicki Minaj, and I was like, you know what? This seems like I need to sleep my way to the top, and it's not really me. And I just pivoted. I just felt like I could, honestly, I really think I could have, dated Mac Main and been a part of Young Money like that. I literally had people at Young Money telling me that. And I just couldn't do it. I just didn't do it. And then I just kind of
Wow.
pivoted and just kept working in radio and kept working on other stuff.
So now what I'm hearing is you could have been in Young Money, but now you're in Young and Profiting. Do you see
Yeah,
that?
how funny is that? And I've never told that story either, but it's the truth. And even Mac Main, he's reached out to me recently and was like, wow, like you've been doing some crazy things. And it's just so funny because it's like, yeah. And I'm really happy that I didn't like sell myself out like that. And my boyfriend's a very famous music producer. His name is Harry Fraud. I've been with him for like 12 years. And so he does music for French Montana. He does music for Rick Ross and The Weeknd and all that kind of stuff. And so he produced my first album. And he also didn't want me to be a singer because he was like, listen, I see the girls, I see what they go through. Like, it's not for you. It's not a good life. Like, and so like he kind of steered me away from it too. And it's like, I feel like, honestly, this is going to sound so messed up. I feel like if I took that path, I would have been raped like 10 times. Like, I know it's sad to say that, but like, literally, that's the kind of vibe that it was.
Wow, Hala, thank you so much for being so honest and just like having no filter, because I think that a lot of girls need to hear this, and you are setting an example of what like a real role model is, right? Like, listen, I lived the life. This is what's really there. Do you want to take that bite? And like, I, however, was not in the music industry because, as you know, my voice is not as angelic as yours. Even on my best day. But I was in the modeling space since I was 5. And I was actually, I got into like America's Next Top Model the first season when I was really young. And then my dad said no, because they have to put cameras all over. He wouldn't sign. I wasn't 18 yet. And he said no because, you know, they record you in the shower. And he's like, no, like my dad was very conservative. He's like, prostitutes, that's for prostitutes. So he
Yeah.
like, there were a lot of opportunities that I had. And it's the same story. Like, had I stayed in that, I probably would have been, and I've been in situations as well. I'm sure you and I can go back with stories, and that's a whole nother podcast as
I
well.
know. And I think so many girls have those stories, unfortunately. But
Yeah, so I think it's great because we are only shown the beautiful image, right? Let's go back to the beauty. We kept on talking about how you're beautiful, how you're stunning, and how like that also opened the doors in some ways, and then it also shut the doors in some ways because it was intimidating. But I really love it that you're talking about this, because people now can see, okay, it's, there's an image, what goes behind it, what's happening on the back end. And like, you kind of shed a little bit of light there. So ladies, if you're listening, all that glitters isn't gold, and just know what you're signing up for
yeah.
sure.
Because I'm telling you, I was, so my first year or two at Hot 97, the reason why I got the internship is because I wanted to push my music. And so I'd spend my days at the station, and then at night I'd be recording music with different producers and things like that. And then all the different A&Rs and things from all the different record labels would come into Hot 97, and they knew that I was a singer, and they would be like, oh, like, you could talk to my record label, and basically insinuating like, if you give me a blowjob, like literally saying that.
What?
Yes, literally like soliciting that. And it just happened over and over again. I was like, you know what? This just really seems like this is the only way is to be like that. And I'm not like that. And so I just pivoted, And so honestly, I've never really said that out loud. I don't know why I'm telling you this right now, but it's like, I feel like your listeners probably need to hear it. Like, if you guys really want to know why I didn't decide to become a singer and why I pivoted, it's because it was like, seemed like the only way I could get there would be through doing things that I wasn't comfortable with.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us, with our listeners. I'm glad that I was able to get that out of you. I think the message was ready to be heard. And I think, we're coming out of a pandemic. People are craving for attention, craving to be seen, to be heard. And I think this is also like an opportunity for people to maybe see themselves in this position. And now hearing this could be empowering. So can you just share with us how you kind of deflected that?
Well, first of all, I just want to take it back, and I want to remind everybody that this was 10 years ago.
Yes.
And I was like 19, 20, 21. You know what I mean? So I was very, very young. And so I would just like ghost people. Like if they said something like, inappropriate, I would just stop responding and just, let them know that that's not really what I was into. But in terms of like how I got over it all, I started my own path. I started my own website. I got out of that Hot 97 environment that was really abusing me. I mean, they were abusing me sexually in terms of like the people like, allowing guests and artists to like always hit on me and like leveraging the fact that I was a pretty girl that all these like celebrities wanted to be around and everything like that. And then also like not paying me and compensating me and in terms of like all the value that I was bringing for all the actual work that I was doing. Right. I think what empowered me was leaving, even though I was kicked out because I was too starstruck by being Hot 97 and being like Hala from Hot 97 and being able to everybody being like, oh my gosh, how did you get that cool job? You get to meet so many celebrities. Oh my God. And so as a young girl, I was like, yeah, I'm the shit. I am meeting all these celebrities. I am partying with Chris Brown. I am, I'm in the VIP every night, but once I started my own thing, the sorority of hip hop, and I was the CEO and I was the owner, and like I wasn't going to be in uncomfortable situations anymore, and it was all me and I was the boss. Everything changed. Everybody treated with me with more respect. I was never in those situations anymore because I wouldn't put myself in those situations. Like I would get in those situations at Hot 97 because it's like those managers or A&Rs or whatever would be at the station and just think it was okay to like approach me like that, you know? So it's like I got to make my own circles once I was my own boss and created my own lane.
I love that. I love that because you took your power back. You're like, no, I'm not going to be under that. I'm going to make my own lane. And when you make your own lane, you're young and profiting and you're just soaring. Like every single day, there's like something else you're working on and you're being very successful. And so, guys, if you're paying attention, if you're watching this, like pay attention to Hala. She is on the lookout because she's doing amazing things.
Thank
And
you.
I cannot wait to see all the other things. So let's go back into this image. We spoke a
Okay.
lot about you being so cute when you were a baby. You got so much attention from your family. Then in school, you like wanted to be the star. You had a voice. You got some jobs because you I think you say it yourself, like correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a pretty girl. You still are. Just not you were. You still are.
Thank you.
And so like let's not kid ourselves. Like you also have to look a certain way to be in these scenarios. So what is your take on the image? Like we spoke about this a tiny bit before. We talk about beauty. And when people think of beauty, they're like, oh, it's just makeup, lashes, hair, a wig, and a dress. Like it's so stupid. But it's so important when you're talking about, especially like in the music industry, in the beauty industry, like modeling, TV, even a TEDx, which I know you're going to do, and we're going to talk about that as well. But like that matters, the way you show up to the world, the impact that you make. People do judge you by your first impression. So I want to hear your take on this because you built a business on the image and how you present yourself, not only like your physical, but like your brand. You are very branded on all platforms.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And something that I just want to say that's unique to my situation is that, like, in middle school and even high school, I wasn't like considered like, oh, she's like a pretty girl in school. And that's because everybody was white and I looked different. And so, like, actually, nobody saw my beauty. And I look back at the pictures, I'm like, well, I look kind of the same. I like, why didn't I get some? It was the 9/11 thing as well. But like, also, I just think that I looked different. I wasn't a blonde hair, blue eyed girl. And those were all the girls that everybody thought was pretty. But once I got to college and it was like really diverse, all of a sudden I was like a very pretty girl. And then in Hot 97 and whatever. So it's funny because it's like I didn't get that kind of sexual attention a lot in middle school and high school, which I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but whatever. In terms of image, I think it's what you want to put out there to the world. I feel like a lot of it is a lot of really good marketing strategies, knowing your brand, knowing your colors, knowing your fonts, being consistent. I have a really aesthetic eye. I've taught myself how to graphic design, and I feel like all of that has a lot to do with it. I had a blog site. I've written over 4,000 blogs, so really know how to write a story. And I think like for the first couple of years of Young and Profiting, I was the one writing all my social posts and basically being able to scale that so that my team can kind of learn the different formulas that I would use in terms of my storytelling and how I'd write my posts and the different things I would talk about. I also think just knowing your story really well. One of the things that I do is for all my clients and myself, we create story journals. So I'll take all their podcast episodes, just like what I'm doing right now when they guest on shows, and we'll transcribe them and we'll get all their little stories and start to put together a journal so that our team can kind of pull from them and ghostwrite on their behalf all these different little stories that they have. And I think it's important to know your stories. And if you haven't really took time to sit down and write them all out, you should. And then, you have a foundation for a book or something if you want to write that in the future because you have all your stories in one place and then you kind of know how to articulate them well and things like that. And I think just knowing what you stand for, like at Young and Profiting, I feel like, I stand for success. I stand for wellness. I stand for bettering yourself, for learning how to make money, for being your own boss, for learning how to side hustle, learning how to be an entrepreneur. Like those are all the pillars of my brand. And I think it's about talking about those pillars and monitoring what you put on social media so that it's not so random. I think that's the key. It's like be strategic about it, think about it a bit, and then like release your stuff.
I love that. I never heard about that, taking the content and making stories out of it. I'm like, Hala, I need your help. This is so good. This is so good. So what is your take on beauty and image? Like, what does that mean to you?
Beauty and image.
Yeah.
I am somebody who likes to be put together, and I think that it's important for you to have good hygiene, and it's important for you to look presentable, and it's important for you to look the part, and it's also scientifically proven. I'll give you guys an example. There's something called the Texas Crosswalk study. Jaywalking is illegal, but if you put a bunch of strangers together and a guy in a suit starts jaywalking, everybody will follow him. But if a guy in like shorts and a tank top, or somebody who's wearing like dirty shoes or shoes with holes in them or something starts walking across a crosswalk, no one's following him. And that's because people are obedient to people who look polished, who look presentable and things like that. And so you actually portray more confidence both internally yourself and outwardly when you look your best. And it really depends on how you feel. So like if you feel great in jeans and a t-shirt, and that's what you feel most confident in, then everybody else is going to feel your confidence, and you're going to give them permission to like follow you. That was my human behavior explanation for why.
I'm like, that's so scientific, Hala. But what does it mean to you? Like, okay, let's take away the scientific part. Just like Hala, like on a day off, like what does beauty mean to you?
Beauty means that I feel comfortable in my skin, that I feel confident, that I'm not shy to have the camera on, and I feel like I'm looking my best. I've had a little bit of time to like fix myself. I love wearing makeup, and it's not necessarily for anyone else. I really just love doing that. And I'm a very girly girl. So like I love doing my hair. I love doing my makeup. I take care of my skin. I always go get facials and all that. And everybody's different. I know a lot of beautiful girls that are very natural and don't do any of that stuff, but it's like I also find it like fun, So I think it just depends on who you are, and I think beauty, like as cliche as it sounds, is definitely in the eyes of the beholder. I just think as long as you feel comfortable and confident, that's what beauty is.
Just a follow-up question for you. Do you think that like the way that you grew up, like you said grew up in a town that was mostly white, and I could relate to your story as being a model, like back then at the age of 5, going on casting calls, and I'm the only little girl with brown hair, brown eyes, and here I am auditioning for Tropicana or Kellogg's, and I'm like, why aren't I getting the part? I'm better than these girls. I can cry on demand. Like, what's happening here? And then, they said you don't have the American look. And so, like, I can relate to you on that end. But growing up and it's from a different culture, like, beauty is different in every culture. So, like, did that clash with you in any way in terms of you growing up in your home and being confident, and then going outside and like, there nobody else looks like me, and then all of a sudden you're trending because Kim Kardashian is, and so like now it's
exactly
hot.
it's like all of a sudden Kim was hot, and then it was like, oh well, it's hot. Something that you guys should note is that like in college, so when everything was going well, when I was like Miss Popular and all the frat boys would try to make me like the princess of their frat or whatever it was. At the same time, so I was like basically like homecoming queen at NJIT. Like you could put me in that box,
Wow,
I was
okay.
the most popular girl in my class, all that kind of stuff before I dropped out. And at the same time, I was like hated by the Arabic community. My friends, my childhood best friends growing up, I wasn't allowed to be in their weddings. My best friends that I slept over their house every weekend as a kid, when they got married in their 20s, because they were from conservative families who married them off when they were in their 20s, I wasn't allowed to be in their wedding. And it was because people thought that I dressed too slutty, that I was going partying, that I was drinking, that maybe I was, just being too wild, that I was dating boys. And in the Arabic community, even though we were in America, it was like more conservative. And so here I was like finally like accepted in school, and then the Arabic community rejected me, which was just so strange. Now I'm just like, ha ha ha, like fuck you all, like, cause it's like I'm the most successful one at all, you bitches, right? But like, so like I was ostracized by the Arabic community in New Jersey, but honestly, I really was not that bad. Like I was just a normal college girl. I was going out to parties, I was wearing short dresses, and I was drinking once in a while. It wasn't that crazy, like, but they treated me as if I was like some like cocaine addict, heroin addict or something, like,
Oh my gosh.
whatever.
Yeah, no. And that's a good story. And I wanted to talk about that because a lot of times, like, we live in America, this is a melting pot and we come from different cultures. And sometimes our cultures say one thing, like mentioned to you, like with my dad in modeling, my dad was like prostitutes, like he would, like, I still don't wear red nail polish or any kind of bright colors because my father has like instilled this in my brain that like, that is for like a naughty girl and
Oh,
you can't be
wow.
naughty. And like you'll never find me with red, like it's always like some sort of nude or like white is like the most that I'll do and I
Wow.
feel like I'm having anxiety about it.
And I feel like there's so many things that probably have impacted me in a similar way. It's so sad. Like, like boys don't have to deal with any of this.
Nope.
Like, I remember my cousins in Palestine messaging me, telling me, like, we're ashamed to have you in our family. Because I was like, went to a party in college. Like literally, like that kind of messaging, like from my own family, even. And so, that's why, like, now I could give two craps what anybody thinks about me because I've been burned so many times, like, just burned so many times. And so, like, I just have like the thickest skin. Like, you really can't get to me.
I want our listeners to hear the resiliency, to hear like you cracked the formula before the formula cracked you. And what I mean by that is you just said, I got burned so many times that it no longer burned. There's nothing to burn. Like there's nothing. It's like a thread, like a rope I'm imagining, and you keep on burning it. And then like it's just thinning out. And then there's like nothing, like the fire could be there, but there's just nothing to burn. And like when you can get yourself there mentally, like strong, nothing can stop you. And that makes sense because you have been unstoppable. But I want to take it back to your family a little bit and talk about COVID. So let's fast forward back to 2020,
Okay.
COVID. Let's talk about, and if it's okay, if it's too much, like we don't have to
No,
talk
that's
about it, but I
okay.
want to talk about the impact that that your dad had on you growing up as a
Mm,
girl, because I know that he was like this force. He
yeah.
was big and supporting people in your family. He was like that person, like that
Yeah.
foundation for everyone and for you, I'm sure. Like he modeled that for you. And I kind of feel like you are kind of he passed the baton to you as like the female version of that. But I just want to make sure that I'm not just putting those ideas out
No,
there. But
it's true. My dad was amazing. So I feel
yeah.
like I would not be who I am, where I am without my dad. My dad was always like, remember when I said like the whole Arabic community was against me and even my own family, but never my dad. Like never my
Wow.
dad. And so like he always supported me, always treated me like an equal, always told me I was a star, always said follow your dreams, like that kind of a guy. So my dad grew up in Palestine during war. He was a farmer's son and he had no light growing up, and he used to study on his walks to school where he had light, and he was really smart, and he ended up getting a scholarship to Egypt, got a scholarship to med school, came to America, became a surgeon, then was chief of surgery, opened up medical centers, and became really, really successful. And he put all my cousins through college, all his kids through college. Really wasn't a flashy guy. Like, even though he was very, very successful, he would like go shop at Sears, and he spent all his money like giving it to orphans and people who needed money to go to college. Because his main thing was like, everybody gave me a scholarship. That's how I'm so successful. So I want to make sure that I can give as many people an opportunity the same way that I got an opportunity when I was younger. And like literally that's what he dedicated most of his life to was, fundraising for people to go to college in Palestine, and then also sending everybody to school and everything like that. So he was amazing and such a hard worker, was writing a million books, doing a million research projects, super ambitious, very like into politics. We would host dinners with like Hillary Clinton when I was younger and like stuff like that. And he was great. He was just like such a great guy, great community guy, great family man. And so in March, I got a call. I was living in Brooklyn with my boyfriend, and my sister called me up and she's like, Hala, mom and dad have COVID. And at the time, me and my boyfriend were crazy about not getting COVID. I would like go to the grocery store with like glasses and masks, gloves. I was wearing a mask on the train since I think February, I was the only person where I used to work at Disney streaming services. So I'd go from Brooklyn to New York City. And for a long time, I was the only person wearing a mask on the train. I was warning everybody about COVID. So I was like, I'm never getting COVID and I'm doing everything in my power not to get COVID. And then I got the call, mom and dad have COVID. And I was begging them. They got COVID because my dad has diabetes and he was still going to the doctor for like checkups. And I was begging them to stop. But anyway, they got COVID and I came home. And, I decided I was going to come home. I ended up staying home for 3 months when I, thought I didn't know what to expect. I thought I was going to die, honestly, because nobody had gotten COVID at that point. So it's like I come home. My mom and dad are sick. My brother is sick. And me and my sister are like in full gear. My sister's a doctor. So she was like the doctor role. And then my job was like custodian. And I was just like cooking, cleaning, and just trying to take care of my family. But it was like miserable. Like we were wearing our mask up until the moment we slept. Me and my sister were, because it was really scary at the time, Elizabeth. Like we didn't know that it was just mouth to mouth. So I was like spraying the couches with alcohol. I was spraying everything with alcohol. And it's like, we didn't know if we could take off our mask. We didn't know if we could touch our eyes or our mouth. And like, so it would be like all day taking care of the family. Everybody was sick. My dad was like extremely sick. And then like we would come downstairs in the basement and like I couldn't even go get blankets from upstairs because we just thought everything was contaminated. And so we were using like old blankets in the basement. I was eating like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every night. And like the only thing I would eat would be at like 11 p.m. once we were done with everything because we were afraid to eat the food upstairs. It was insane. Anyway, my dad got like sicker and sicker and sicker. And then, he was basically unresponsive. And like we tried bringing an oxygen machine home. Like the last thing we wanted to do was take him to the hospital. And then finally we called the ambulance to take him to the hospital. And he looked at us like, please, like, I'm never going to see you guys again. And we were like, no, you will. Like, and then they wheeled him away. And honestly, that's the last time I ever saw him alive. And we weren't allowed to visit him in the hospital. I got COVID. And even though we got COVID, they still wouldn't let us go see him, even though he was in the hospital for like a month, maybe like 6 weeks. And they would not let us go in the hospital. He ended up passing away on May 15th, 2020. And to me, I think the most traumatic part of that was the fact that for somebody who was so generous, like literally like an angel. Like he used to do surgery. So he was a general and vascular surgery. He used to do surgeries for free all the time for people. Like he saved so many freaking lives, that guy, he was such a good guy. He would like do charity cases all the time. And then like for a doctor, nonetheless, who saved lives to like had to die alone and like without his family, and like they wouldn't let us see us until he died. It's like I got to go to my dad's hospital room after he was dead. It's like I couldn't even say goodbye. And like to me, that was definitely the worst part of it all. Like it's one thing to lose your father. Everybody's gonna die. Everybody's gonna lose someone. It was more like not saying goodbye.
Especially with your dad being this person, just this humanity. He just sounds like an angel. Like as you were describing him, I was like, I'm not gonna cry.
Oh, 100%.
Talk about that, because during that you were still launching your company.
Oh yeah.
So
I missed
like
that whole part. Yeah. So what happened was I was working at Disney Streaming, and while my dad was in the hospital, I would literally try to be on Zoom constantly. Like they would let us be on Zoom. And so Disney was like a horrible company culture, right? My dad was like literally dying, and like I was expected to be on every call, every whatever. And so I would work all day, even though I like had COVID and like was probably still getting over COVID, all that shit. So I'd be on my meetings and I'd have my dad on my iPad on Zoom. And in between my meetings, I would like talk to him. I'd sing to him. I couldn't know if he heard me or not, but like I would literally was on Zoom with him 24 hours a day. As long as they let me do it, I was on Zoom with him while he was in the hospital at least. But I don't know if he could hear me or whatever, because he was really unresponsive. So anyway, finally, I was in this meeting and my mom calls me and she's like, Hala, like they said that dad's dying and like we have 20 minutes to get to the hospital and like if we want to see him and say goodbye. And so I just was like closed all my stuff and like ran to the hospital. Like we drove to the hospital and then they called us on the way and said that he had passed away. And then so like when I got there, he was like had just died. And so I remember they would only let us go up one by one, which like sucked. It's like I didn't even get to like say goodbye with my family, you know? And so it's like they only let us go up one by one. And so it's like I went up there and I remember telling him like, it's everything that you did is not in vain, you know? And that I'm going to make it. Sorry.
Don't say sorry. Don't say sorry because this needs to be heard. It needs to come out. Like your dad is still here and present. Like I just wanted you to know and everyone listening because you're not the only one, right?
Yeah, 100%. And if I tell this story, it's for everybody else. I mean, I just told him like, listen, you gave me so much opportunity. I'm going to make sure that everybody knows our name. Everybody knows your name. Everybody knows my name. And I got you and and everything's going to change and that I'm going to make a difference the same way that you made a difference. And so I just promised him that. And I remember I was like screaming in the hospital, like, I promise I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to make you proud. Everything that you ever wish for me is going to come true. And a lot of it did already. So it's just really cool that, you know, sometimes death is a great motivator. You realize that like life is limitless and I was really working hard before that, but it just made me like, you know, put myself first and really, really work hard and focus. And I just used it as a way to like launch myself because then when my dad was in the hospital, I started a business called Yap Media. And Heather Monahan is one of my mentors. And basically I was like, I'm always so like helpful to everyone. So I'm always like hopping on calls and teaching people stuff and just being helpful. That's like my personality. And so this lady, Heather Monahan, she's like this big influencer on LinkedIn. She was like, your stuff is so good. Your marketing is so good. I want to learn from you. And so I would go on these calls with her. And at the time I had all these volunteers working for Young and Profiting Podcast. And we were in a Slack channel. And so I had like 10 people who just wanted to work for free for me in Slack. And so I was showing Heather our Slack channel. I was showing her our social schedule. I was showing her Canva and like Headliner and all these different processes we had. And she was just so impressed. And she was like, I want to be your client. Like you have a little marketing agency and you don't realize it. I want to be your first client. And so I was like, okay, like I'll do a couple videos for you. And like literally I charged her like $500 a month. And I was like, this is never going to scale. Like I'm never going to make money doing this. My next client was like a $30K a month client. And then it was just like, boom, everything just like blew up. And now I have 40 employees. We're making almost $2 million in revenue in our first year. I've got like 10 huge clients. The company's growing so fast. My podcast went from getting like 3,000 downloads a month to like 150,000 downloads a month. I landed the cover of Podcast Magazine. It's just like my whole life just like all of a sudden just skyrocketed in terms of like my success. Like it was slow and steady for the fact that like I did grow a big LinkedIn following and I did put in a lot of work and I had a lot of episodes. But it's like this summer, like had all that time at home and like had this fuel of my father dying and him being such a great man and so successful and me feeling like I need to live up to that and like do him right. Plus I think his guidance, you know, from the stars, maybe he like, you know, hooked me up a bit because I have no idea how I landed Podcast Magazine. I don't think I deserved it at the time, but maybe I did. And it's like, you know, you're always so hard on yourself.
You definitely deserved it, number one, right? Like being on the cover and all of your success. Your dad literally passed that on to you and his legacy is living on through you. So I just wanted to acknowledge you and like let people know that about you because I feel like we always get this strong Hala with the MBA who worked at Disney, who worked at here, who, you know, all these things that great. You were Hot 97, you were a singer, you were going to audition, you were going to do MTV. Like who knows what else you're not telling us, right? But we don't hear this Hala. We don't hear the feminine, soft Hala what fuels her? Who is she? What's she about? This is what she's about. Like there's a lot to her. We all have layers. And I'm so glad that you came on the podcast and were like open to it and like made us cry.
Yeah, I told you a lot of juicy stuff.
how would you see yourself like impacting your family, your community, and your niece who's watching you? She's watching the strong woman grow up. Like, I want to know. Tell me, like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, there was no Arabic women who were doing anything. You know what I mean? It's like if you were an Arabic woman, you were covered, you probably were a housewife. Like I had nobody to look up to. And so I'm so happy that I can be this like Americanized Arabic woman who's, professional, and I've got a great company and brand and podcast and just influencing so many people. And I feel like it's only going to get bigger and bigger. Especially the trajectory that we're on and the rate at which the company and podcast is growing and all my social channels and things like that. So I'm just excited that my niece, who's half Chinese, half Palestinian, is going to grow up having somebody who at least like sort of looks like her, somebody that she can look up to that's not a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. And, that you can be successful taking your own path. And I love the fact that right now I'm literally living my dream. When I was working in corporate, it was all because I was trying to fit into a box that everybody wanted me to be in. And yeah, I was doing great because I made it my own thing and used my personality traits to be good at my corporate job. But now that I'm a full-time entrepreneur and I've got my focus is my podcast and content and this marketing agency, it's just amazing, like to wake up and do what I want to do every day, like be on a podcast like this in the middle of the day, like, and just have this awesome conversation. What I want to represent to my niece is like, I want her to know that you can follow your dreams and anything that you believe can happen if you really work hard. And if you believe in yourself and believe in your talents and believe that life is limitless. And I always say this, like, you have to believe that life has no limits. As soon as I really, really went back to that thinking, it's like everything 10x for me.
So I want to ask you, I asked all my guests, like, are you familiar with the Beauty Circle?
I know that you emailed me so I can pull it up.
Yeah, so basically it's a circle that I use with my clients, and it's kind of like how I'm a little bit sneaky about the work that I do. People come to me for the image, and then there's more to life, like holistic, there's science, there's like a whole bunch of little categories that I get really, it could be superficial or it could be like really deep. Like I can go into like quantum physics on a specific topic, right? But I just always gauge where my clients are at. So I always ask my guests, in the beauty circle, there's 10 different categories. Where do you find yourself excelling in currently? And where do you find yourself maybe needing a little bit of extra love?
Yeah. So I would say sleep is where I struggle, and relationships is actually probably where I thrive. For people who don't know me, like I am all about collaboration and communities, and like I'm always building a network even when I'm not trying to. Like I wanted to start Young and Profiting Podcast as a one-man band. Like I just wanted to be me, and I have 50 employees now. And from episode 2, I had my first volunteer, and then by episode 8 I had 10 volunteers, and it was all natural. I didn't pay anyone. And when I had Sorority of Hip Hop, I had probably 100 girls in and out of that, 50 at the height of it, and I was the president. And again, it was like people who just wanted to follow this movement. When I worked at HP, I was president of the Young Employee Network, and I led all these people at my office. Then I was president of my alumni association. So like always like becoming the leader, always becoming like the networker. I have like a podcast mastermind now, community. You know what? I would get fans who would reach out to me and be like, I just want to work for you. And then so I just started a Slack channel. I was like, okay, come join our Slack, and I'll teach you how to do an audiogram, and you could just keep doing that each week. And then I would give everybody these little projects. And now the volunteers who worked for my show are now like team leads that have like whole teams under them.
Wow.
Which is amazing that like these volunteers that worked for free for me for about a year now are getting like have salaries and quit their jobs and work for Gap. Amazing. So and they're following their dreams because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to work for free at one point. So they obviously had dreams for it too.
What is a message that you would have told your younger self from the Hala that you are today? Like Hala today has a time machine, and she went back to like, tell me like right when 9/11 happened. I feel like that was a very crucial point in your life where things pivoted and you felt like ostracized. Like what would you tell that Hala?
So this is what I would tell anybody who's young and like still finding their way is think about your rejections and realize that if a gatekeeper is telling you no, you actually need to create your own lane, create your own path. So I'll give you guys all the different examples. I worked at Hot 97 for 3 years. I basically was slave, worked for free every single day. It wasn't about convincing Angie Martinez to hire me. That's not what changed my life. What changed my life is I decided to take it into my own power and start my website. And then that made me on the same playing field as the DJs, and the same DJs who wouldn't pay me minimum wage put me on the flyers, and I would promote their parties and make just as much money as them promoting parties. Wow. Because I decided to create my own lane. Then again, MTV decided not to air the show. I decided, okay, again, I'm going to focus this negative energy on creating my own path. And I decided that like getting my MBA and getting a 4.0 and getting a great job was going to be that lane, right? Then again, there's something happened at HP where I wasn't given a promotion to be the president of the Global Young Employee Network that I just mentioned before. And that's why I started. Which I started.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't let me be the global president because the HR person didn't like me. And then she left the company a month later. But like, long story, it's just like the same shit. Like, I didn't get a promotion that I absolutely deserved and was absolutely the most qualified for. Again, I started my own thing, and that was Young and Profiting Podcast. And now I'm literally one of the most successful female podcasters in the world right now. And it's only because I was rejected and I decided to pivot and start my own thing that I own. That nobody can tell me yes or no, that the success of my growth depends on me and what I put into it. And so like, if you're a hard worker, if you know that you have talents, like, don't wait for someone to give you the permission to be that person. Like, I waited 3 years for Angie to give me permission to just have a job. So that's the advice that I'd give, is like, really just pay attention to your rejections and figure out how you could do it on your own if you can.
I love that message. Guys, if you're listening, I know I have a lot of high school students who listen in as well. Guys, you heard it from here. You can be young and profiting, and you can be successful in your own lane. And Hala is proof of that. You can follow her journey. Hala, it is brag time on the podcast. I know that you're doing new things. Tell us about you have a new podcast coming up. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So I am launching a new podcast. It's called The Audio Newsroom. So if any of you guys are podcasters and you want to get the latest in podcasting and drop in audio news, you can check that out. It's going to be called The Audio Newsroom with Hala Taha. And then, of course, I have my, very popular podcast. It's called Young and Profiting. I've interviewed Matthew McConaughey, Robert Greene, Seth Godin. I put out episodes 3 times a week, so you guys can check that out. It's Young and Profiting. You can find it everywhere. And then you can find me on LinkedIn at Hala Taha and on Instagram at Yap with Hala.
Amazing. Thank you, Hala, for being here with us today. So appreciate it. And you can also find her on Clubhouse.
Yeah,
Just
follow
that
me
there.
on Clubhouse. I'm there like 4 hours a day. So if you go, you guys can find me there too.
I'll put it in my show notes so that you guys can follow her around, because you will have access to her. You can raise your hand, get up on stage, and she will literally answer your question if she has time, because usually the stage is full. She has a lot of people in those rooms, so you don't want to miss those out. Like, if you really want to contact Hala live, like, that is a way to do it. Follow her on there. I'm on there as well, so give us a follow. And Hala, I just want to say thank you so much for being on this podcast, for showing us a different side of Hala and being vulnerable with us. I know that your message today was received and was heard and was healing for so many people on so many levels. We covered so much, so I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. This was so much fun. You did a great job.
Thank you. My beautiful people, thank you so much for tuning in this week. Your support means the world to me. And if you are still listening, this means that you care. And to those amazing listeners who are still tuning in, I would so appreciate it if you, subscribed if you haven't already subscribed. Share this episode with any friend who you think will get some value and would learn something. This is truly an amazing show where we're going to keep on bringing in amazing guests that will rock your world. If you have the time, which I know you have, and it would mean so much to me, and it would allow me to continue my mission on interviewing amazing, fantastic people who have amazing stories that can impact your life, please rate and review. It takes 2 seconds. You share this episode right now on your social media, screenshot it, tag me, Elizabeth __ Molina, and also tag the guest that I just interviewed, because it just means so much. Let me know which part you liked. Let me know which part you didn't like. Let me know if anything was impactful, because I want to hear it. They want to hear it. We all want to hear it. So I'm so excited for you guys to tune in next week because we have another super amazing guest. So cannot wait for you guys to hear that. Bye, guys.